up? I'm in Florida today working on this brand new M500. It only has about 24 flight hours on it, so it really is quite new, and it doesn't have a whole lot of interesting paint defects to show you. We're still going to do one-step correction on it prior to ceramic coating. That paint correction makes sure that the paint is as shiny as possible. So in the last TBM video you could see that we actually measured gloss improvement on doing a paint correction on something that is quite new. So we're going to do a paint correction to boost the shine, prep the surface, then we're going to ceramic coat it so it's well protected against turboprop exhaust and so it's easier to clean. Now I do want to spend a little bit more time on this episode on how to clean one of these. We have a Meridian episode a while back where we showed some washing techniques. I'm going to show you a few more tricks in this video to give you a wider array of tools. Now this plane, it just came back from Houston and it is covered in pollen. So I'm going to show you how to do a no rinse wash the way the bottle actually teaches you how to do it. So that's how you would wash a car with no rinse. It's not the spray on wipe off. Because we have so much particles, so pollen particles on the paint, this wash method is going to work a little bit better. So I'm going to show you how to do a wet wash with no rinse, which is still only using 2 gallons of water. And then I'm going to show you a few different exhaust removal methods as well. So we covered a few of those in the TBM video. We're going to cover them again here just so you don't have to watch the TBM video. So for the no rinse wet wash method, we're going to start with 2 gallons of water and we're going to add 1 ounce of Optimum no rinse, the blue stuff in this case. The reason we use the blue stuff is because it doesn't have any additional sealants or waxes added. You can get other flavors of no rinse which do. Because we're coating, I don't want to add anything else. So the way no rinse works, billions of little polymers that stick to your surface and provide lubrication, and they stick to any surface particles, so dirt, pollen in this case, and they surround the particle. So now that particle is less abrasive and it also tends to sink to the bottom. So we have a lubricated surface, we pick up all of these particles with our towel, we go to bucket, wash, and during the wash the particles are separated from your towel, they sink to the bottom. So that's kind of the basic general idea. When we do a spray on wipe off wash, we're capturing that dirt in our towel and then we can change towels when the towel gets too dirty. In this case we use the same towel, however we clean it in a 2-gallon reservoir of no rinse solution. Take our no rinse soaked towel, don't wring it out, you want it wet, right? And we kind of fold it into quarters. Set up a nice straight pattern like this. You don't have to push very hard. And clean a small area at a time. Now we take our towel with all the surface particles, we wash it in the bucket. Now this time I do wring it out because I want it to dry. We just go back over the area we just cleaned and pick up any excess liquid. Then, because this is about 90% dry, we take our drying towel and dry the remainder. Then we move on to the next section. The thing with no rinse, it's called no rinse because you don't have soap to rinse off. It doesn't mean no rinse that if you're covered in mud, you don't rinse beforehand. You would still rinse beforehand. So if you're doing your car and you got all sorts of dirt or salt on it, you could do this, you just have to work in very small sections and frequently wash your towels or change towels. In this case, airplane isn't that dirty. We're going to pick up these surface contaminants with our towel, clean them in the bucket, dry it off, work in the next section. So we're not rinsing after our soap step, whereas if we were to wet wash this plane, get soap on it, we have to wash off the soap. Now if that soap had any lubrication in it, we just washed away that lubrication. So then when we're drying, we are drying water, which is not lubricated, and water actually has very high surface tension, which makes it want to stick to your surface. No rinse has lower surface tension, so it dries off a little bit easier too. So again, close up. If you feel like your towel is getting dirty at this point, just use another side and continue another section. can wash out the towel. Get it mostly dry. Get it fully dry. Just take care when you're drying not to take your clean drying towel into an area that hasn't been washed yet, because then you're going to pick up grit, you're going to get it on your drying towel and kind of defeat the whole purpose of doing this way. You can do pretty big areas at a time too, especially if you're inside, it's not hot. So when you're drying, you may not get 100% of it off, which is fine. No rinse binds any calcium that might be in your water, so it actually somewhat softens it and you're not as worried about water spotting this way. But it's still going to leave some streaks if you don't dry it properly. Now, I'm going to be polishing this, so I don't care if there's a little bit of water left behind, but to kind of go that next level and get even more gloss, you can use a drying aid. Now I like to use G-Technics C2, which is actually a sealant. I like to use that as my drying aid. So whether or not it's coated or not coated, you can use this either way. Take a short pile towel like this and use very, very little of this. So we just spray some on, and once you have it on there, I actually like to rub it in a little bit like that so it's really not wet, and just drag it over the surface, and you'll feel that it's wet and there's a little bit of liquid coming off, but it dries right away. If you're leaving like a wet streak of product behind, you're putting on way too much. It's always better to go in multiple layers and just kind of get it on there, and you'll feel the difference right away. Like, this is now slicker than that. If your plane's not coated, this is going to give you a little bit extra protection. A couple of months, it's a lot easier than waxing, because you see I'm barely putting any product on and just kind of lightly wiping it around. On a coated plane, it's going to make that coating even slicker, but more than anything, it's just a great last step product to give you, to get rid of that water residue, but also give you a little bit more shine. Now, this being a turboprop, and this being where a lot of the exhaust ends up, how well does no rinse work on turboprop? Well, let me qualify by saying it's going to work better on this plane than it would most planes, because this paint is new. As paint gets older, it gets more porous and it holds onto exhaust more. Also, this plane just landed, so this is fresh exhaust. The longer you wait, the more exhaust you get on there, the harder it is to remove it. It almost like dries up and sticks harder. But let's do the same thing here, just so you can see what happens, and then I'll show you an easier way to do this. So first of all, it's grabby, like it's grabbing at the towel. Second of all, it is cleaning in a patchy manner. You can see there's kind of clean spots, dirty spots. As you start kind of scrubbing, you get a little bit more clean, but it's not the best way to do it. You can do it, it's not the best way to do it. The problem is that this is kind of an oil-based stain, and you really need some sort of degreaser to get that out. So let me mop this up here, get all the excess liquid off. So in the other video we used citrus cleaner in a little hand soap bottle. Here is a little bit better solution. So you pump it, you got your solution in here, then you spray. Take a towel, et voila. Now we still want to get the soap residue off, and you notice this wasn't like the thick foam that you're used to. That's because the more foam or the more soap you put in, the more soap residue you have to remove. So I'm using just a very light dilution, just enough to get the stain off. Now I'm going to no rinse it to get the soap off. So anytime you use some sort of soap or degreaser. Follow up with no rinse, just so you don't have soapy residue sitting on your airplane. So this is Release Ultra. It's a airplane specific degreasing cleaning agent. They say you can just wipe it and walk away. I still want to follow up with no rinse, especially if this is coated. Soap is sticky, so it's going to interfere with the coating's ability to shed stuff because it's covered in soap. Now, it's not going to hurt the coating, it's just not going to let the coating do its job as well. Now, foaming is fun, I get it, but if you spray a lot of product, like it all just kind of bunches up, see? And then you get all this foam you have to deal with. So have fun with it, but know that it's gonna, you know, it's gotta go somewhere. You gotta pick it up with a towel at some point. You can kind of see how the foam is starting to pick up that color. You do want to wipe this because you see how it's starting to kind of break apart into little islands of foam. If your plane was really dirty, this, where there's no foam, is not going to be cleaning. Where there is foam, it's going to clean more. So you don't want blotches of clean. That's why spray it on, wipe it off. If it's still dirty, just do it again. Again, foaming is fun. You want to foam more. I know it. There's a link to the foamer in the description as well, by the way. So another PA46 Meridian issue is down here you get some turbine oil blow by. Turbine oil kind of turns yellowish orange as it reacts with moisture in the air, and it can actually stain paint. So one of the tests I did early on, I took a very porous piece of aircraft skin and dripped some turbine oil on it every day, just left it outside. And what the coating will help with is it keeps that oil, which is right now it's kind of forming a film on the surface. It keeps it off the surface. So instead of a film of oil, you get like rivulets of oil, and it makes it a lot easier to clean. So we're going to do the same thing here. Spray it with the Release Ultra, wipe it off, no rinse it. But after it's coated, that's going to protect this nice white paint from staining. Now you don't really have to let it sit like I did. I just thought it would look cool on camera. See, it comes right off. After it's coated, a lot of owners find that just spraying no rinse on, wiping off, does the trick with turbine oil. So now for the grand finale, this part, left underside horizontal stabilizer, dirtiest part of the Meridian. We'll spray foam maybe on this half here, let that sit. Then on this side I'll show you a different technique. So the foam is good, especially because it can get into regular surfaces, but it is a diluted product. So on this side we're going to spray down some no rinse first, or wet it down with no rinse. Then we're going to spray straight citrus degreaser on it to see if there's a big difference between cleaning power. Okay, so we're going to no rinse this first. The main reason we do that is to make sure the surface is evenly wet, so our droplets of citrus cleaner are not going to form little pockets. They're going to diffuse out. So we got Release Ultra, W5 Citrus, 100%. Now we wait. So this is the milder product. This is like 1 ounce in 16 ounces of Release Ultra, something plus minus. It's not chemistry, guys. This is 100% cleaner, so let's see if there's a big difference. Okay. Pretty good. I would say those work evenly well. Gotta go in there now. So the airplane is washed. Now we're going to do a paint correction. Paint correction removes fine swirls, scratches, cleans the surface, make sure the coating is going to have a good surface to bond to, right? One-step paint correction is what I had in mind for this plane, and I kind of jinxed myself by saying earlier that it really is quite new and it doesn't have a whole lot of interesting paint defects to show you. Oh, the paint's not that interesting, you know, no crazy things on the paint. Well, when washing a plane, you see everything, and there's a bunch of sanding marks. They're really nasty sanding marks, actually. Like, Piper, call me, I'll show you how to do this. Like, it doesn't have to be this way. So there's some sanding marks on the right side fuselage. The whole upper left here, this whole area, has some really deep scratches, and I don't know what happened. I'm thinking when they prepped the lower end for paint, they did something to the upper end because they painted white first, but whatever it is, a one-step isn't touching it. So what you see up here, this is after a one-step correction. It doesn't look any better. So we're gonna do our more aggressive two-step here. So we're gonna use a wool pad on the dual action polisher with the last cut compound. So good combination. It's going to remove those scratches. It's going to be a little bit more aggressive. Because of that, we're going to go over it again with hyper polish and a softer yellow pad to make sure we're not leaving haziness behind. So that's what it's called, a two-step. To show you the difference, I'm going to tape off a little section here because that always looks good, and show you the whole process. But what you see now is not baseline. That's already after a one-step, and the one-step didn't do anything. So we'll do this area up here. Because the last cut is a diminishing abrasive, we can't work very large sections at a time because it starts off really aggressive, but then it works itself down to a finer polish, so your end results look better. But because of that, you also can't do all of this in one go. Wool pad, the last cut. Let's get some. Normally I wear hearing protection, but it's... Good morning. Day 2. Fuselage is fully polished, top to bottom. it's panel wipe, so that's that alcohol solution that pulls out any oils or waxes or polish residue, anything that might interfere with coating adhesion. Now that that's done, it's ready to coat, so we'll start with that top to bottom. When that's done, polish the wings top to bottom, coat them top to bottom, and then clean the interior and coat it top to bottom. Some progress has been made, not a lot of filming has happened, sorry. The left side wing is polished and coated. Actually, the whole fuselage is coated, so that's what I was doing. Left top wing is coated. I'm going to polish the right side wing, I'll show you what that looks like. Fortunately, because again, this plane's only 24 hours old, we don't have a lot of that staining that we usually see on the top, kind of first 3 feet of the right wing. Very commonplace for meridians to show exhaust staining. Now, I am curious, even though we just washed it, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a little bit of lightening or possibly some staining coming out, even though it's only 24 hours old. So we'll see what that does. But once that's done, we're going to coat the top, then polish the underside of the wings, coat that, polish the underside of horizontal stabilizer, and then leather coating. So let's get to it. So I guess I'm not really surprised. This part is what I just polished up here. This is just general paint. It still gets some exhaust, but it doesn't get a lot of exposure. This is like where the main streak of exhaust runs. So polishing right in there on that tape line, you can see what a difference polishing makes, even after 24 hours. Like, it's amazing how quickly turboprop exhaust can dull paint, and I hope that this shows you that, yes, A, new airplanes need paint correction, B, new airplanes need ceramic coatings, especially turboprops. So I'm going to continue on polishing here, polish the top, and we're going to panel wipe it and then coat it. is having to fight gravity. We got exposed rivet heads and we have vortex generators. So one of the challenges here is going to be getting even pressure on the surface. With a flat pad, it's going to be a little bit harder to do. You're going to be pushing pretty hard to do that. I like to use waffle pads for these situations. So you can see it kind of looks like a waffle. It's really more like an egg carton, but think of this as suspension. So it kind of progressively gets stiffer. So I can touch on there, and I don't have to be perfectly level. The surface here is going to ensure that I have good contact. And also, with this texture, it's easier to get closer up and around all these rivet heads, so it makes it a little bit easier to work on there. For these, we got a different solution. I'll show you that when I get to that. But let's get this polished out quick, and then we'll get to the vortex generators. This is just for the vortex generators. As I'm doing this, there's always different, they're like checkpoints on a job. The first checkpoint is when I don't have to use a ladder anymore, so that's usually in the earlier phase. The second checkpoint, my favorite checkpoint, is when I'm done using a polisher. And that was it. That was the last bit of polisher I needed to use. So we're just gonna wipe off the polish residue, panel wipe it, coat it, then clean the leather, coat the leather, and then catch a flight home. Coating's done. Onto the interior. So I've been cleaning inside, but it's dark and it's tight, so it's not easy to film in there. But here are some pictures of before and afters that I've accomplished in there. Now that's just cleaning, it's not coated yet. I took out this cushion here to show you outside of the plane what I'm doing inside of the plane. So let's get started with the essentials of cleaning. So we got Color Lock Strong Cleaner, link in the description. Yellow scrubber brush, link in the description. Now these are really new seats. If they were more wrinkly, I would use that wooden scrubber brush, also link in the description. But this nice flat surface is going to work just fine for this newer surface. Microfiber towel, water. Pretty simple. So I'm going to do, let's see, what shall we do first? We'll do half of this bolster, just so you can see the before and after. So spray a little bit of water on. Take our foam, Color Lock Strong Cleaner foam, put it on the scrub brush, and kind of work that in. The cool thing with foam is that it picks up whatever dirt is in there and it floats it to the top. If you let it dry, or if your leather's really dry, it sucks it back in there. So you want to make sure it's a work manageable section so you're not putting all the dirt back in. Alright, let's see if the camera can pick up that difference. I think it will. I'm going to do another section here where it's a little more pronounced, and then we'll see if we can get a before and after shot. Alright, so there's the line right there. Clean, not clean. The edges of this tool are great for kind of getting into corners. And you don't push very hard. I mean, you put some pressure down, otherwise it's like hydroplaning. But there's all these little hairs on the bottom that get in that texture and help scrub out any soiling. So once everything's clean, just put the coating on. Get the surface damp, so it's just clean microfiber towel with some water on it. So modern leather, especially in airplanes, you got your cow skin, you got a paint layer, you got a clear coat layer. What we're doing is we are reinforcing that clear coat layer with a ceramic layer. And the ceramic layer is going to resist abrasion better, but more importantly, it's going to resist staining better. So all of that accumulation of blue jean dye and that kind of stuff, over time that can actually creep into that clear coat layer and become a more permanent stain. Whereas now we're giving it another layer to resist. On light seats like this, it really is a no-brainer. But even on darker seats, if you have like skin lotion or sunscreen, all that stuff can stain too. I've seen some really bad sunscreen stains on cars where I wasn't able to get it out. We ended up respraying it, which luckily it was black, but still. So we just go around, apply this all over, then it's done. Then it's beauty shots and going home. So hope this was a helpful episode to show you the type of improvement on a brand new aircraft. Hopefully you learned why brand new aircraft need paint corrections and coatings also. And if you have any questions, let me know. Put in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't already. And see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.